Hey, what's up? It's Professor Baby here. I apologize for the weird framing. It looks like I have little wings on my back there. I'm recording in my bedroom, and I don't actually have as much time as I think the album Baby by Dijon. Dijon, I don't know how he pronounces his name. I'm a French professor. What do you want? Dijon? I don't know if I'm going to be doing it justice, frankly, because it's probably the album of the year. But literally, I can't listen to it without like weeping tears of joy. Which is a weird reason not to review an album, but I'll get into there. But in reality, I just don't have enough time in my life. My semester is starting. I'm whipping up my Haiti class, doing a new version of French 111. I got all this stuff to do, all these meetings, all that. But mainly, I want to spend more time with my kids. My daughter's going off to college, and I got a 3-year-old, I got a 1-year-old. I got to think about babies. Talk about babies. I got babies, and my wife, and I get to spend time with her. I'm going to be spending less time with her because I'm going back to work, and I want to spend time with her. So all of the reasons that this video is not doing justice to Baby by Dijon is exactly why the album Baby by Dijon needs more attention. All right. Now listen, this is a story of 2 listens. The first listen was all music. I didn't pick up on the lyrics at all. I mean, not a single goddamn lyric. I just heard him singing in his way that the dude sings. And I heard the music and I heard the atmosphere and I had one opinion. And then I came home and I listened to it again and I read the lyrics. And I lost my ever-loving mind. All right? Am I still wearing my glasses? I am. Are these the bad glasses that the dog chewed on? No, these are good. I look distinguished enough. So the first take I had, I was so proud of myself, just listening to the music. I was like, this, music crickets love to do this, horse hockey. This album is like if JPEGMafia and Prince had a baby. Good job, Professor. Funny thought. All right? That's what I thought, right? I was like, what should I call it? Should I call it J Prince Mafia? There's already J Prince. And he apparently has some interesting potential ties to organized crime as well, depending on the rumors. I don't know. So, no, not J Prince Mafia. JPEG Prince yet? I didn't land on anything. I did realize, though, we should call OVO, like Drake's team, we should call them PDF Mafia. I just had that idea. But anyways, so that was my idea. JPEGMafia and Prince had a baby. Because, Prince, he doesn't play guitar as well as Prince, okay? I'm sorry. Very few human beings have or ever will. But, the fact that he's playing his own guitar work, the fact that he's playing his own drums, he's not doing it all by himself. He's got producers, and McGee's on here a bunch, and some guy named Charlo is on there a bunch, and that's cool, right? That's all cool. It's all cool. But it's not so much that. It's that the way that he sings, he has that Princian ability to scream and to yell in a way that's in tune and is just so emotionally powerful. It feels like it's the heritage of Little Richard, right? Like that ability that rock and roll was able to give, and mixed in with soul, of just having so much emotion at just this absolute straining edge. So we kind of have that element of Prince. And then there's, to me, I don't know. Listen, I don't know if Dijon listens to JPEGMafia at all. I don't know if this is an absolute absurdity, an obscenity for me to make this comparison. But to me, I hear there's a real intentional jankiness to this production. There's a lot of noisiness, a lot of avant-gardism in here, a lot of especially Wu-Tang little samples thrown in all over the place to make the listening a little bit less pleasant. But meanwhile, the whole time, the overall feel is kind of an 80s kind of soft rock feel that at times verges on vaporwave, which of course was invented by JPEGMafia. And of course, a lot of that great 80s soft rock music that doesn't suck was made by, that's right, Prince. So that was my take. That's what I was going to do. But the problem is this. Prince and JPEGMafia, as great as they are, they're not heartless, but there's not a lot of heart there. And listen, a friend of mine literally is a Prince scholar. Okay, I've seen Prince in concert. I prefer his late work. Okay, Emancipation is my favorite Prince album. All right, what am I going to do? I'm a fucking hipster. In This Bed I Scream. In This Bed I Scream is a better song than Purple Rain. All right? That's how much of a Prince fan I am. But like, he was kind of a broken guy. The song Prince Alone in the Studio by Smog is my favorite song about a musician ever made. I love that song. And, that's kind of who he was. He was kind of a distant guy. He was kind of a cold guy. He was so wrapped up in his perfection. He was so wrapped up in his art. He was so wrapped up in his genius that he couldn't really connect to other people. And he was also quite isolated. And JPEGMafia, I don't know his personal life, but he definitely presents himself as someone who has a difficulty forming long-term relationships, forming meaningful connections. Whereas this album... This album by Dijon is the absolute opposite of that. This is a big old teddy bear hug of an album. People have been asking me to review this album for the last week. Why didn't anybody tell them that I wrote this album? Why didn't you tell me I wrote it? Why didn't you tell me I'm Dijon? I know we have different life experiences. I wasn't born in Germany. Hey, there's another JPEG. Dijon crossover, the military base experience. I have very different experiences, I racialized in completely different ways and totally different ages and all that stuff. But I wrote this album, I can tell you. The album this actually reminds me most of is The Big Day by Chance the Rapper. This is an album for those of us who just want to say, dag nabbit, I'm in love, and that's okay. Problem for me, this album's like 2 years late for me. I just had a baby 3 years ago. 3 years ago in 3 days. Okay, I just had a baby a year and a week ago. But this album so eloquently and perfectly describes the excitement, the fear, the responsibility, the joy of having children, while at the same time being a sex album about your wife? Are you kidding me? You tell me. Okay, what? Maybe John Lennon a little bit, maybe a little bit does good sex songs about his wife, but we know about The Lost Weekend. Good marriages. God, I'm gonna sound like a marriage counselor, but there's no such thing as a good marriage that it does not have a good sex life. It just doesn't exist. There's plenty of fine marriages with bad sex lives. And there's probably some marriages with good sex life. No, probably not actually. But what is this? How is it that this has never really been explained or explored perfectly like this is? This album is just as freaky as anything Prince ever came out with, except it's entirely about the one woman he's with. It's an album for us, those of us who accept that some people don't believe in monogamy. And if you don't believe in monogamy, vaya con Dios, plural, right? Go with all sorts of gods. It doesn't matter to me, right? But for those of us that believe in monogamy and understand what it takes to make a great marriage and appreciate the challenges and joys of raising a family while staying emotionally and physically connected to your wife, this is an album for you. That's why I wrote this album. Where's my songwriting credit? Beautiful. So I'll go through the album. I don't have that much time. Literally, 3-year-old got a play date in 10 minutes. So I got to finish this up. All right. I got to wake her up, take her to the potty. You know what I'm saying? For real. Baby, first track. JPEGMafia opening, kind of lo-fi Prince vibes. This is where I first got that idea, The great faraway sound, the atmosphere. You can listen to this album and not pay attention to the lyrics. But then he gets real explicit about what their first date was like and how it was almost seemed like a one-night stand, but they got to know each other and touching the baby, touching the tummy and all the excitement and the joy. And I love it. And the exclamation point, much like JPEGMafia often uses exclamation points in his album titles. I'm just saying. LP, exclamation point. But he named his baby Baby. Remember at the beginning of this video when I called myself Professor Baby? You know why? That was my name. Except for me, it wasn't an intentional thing. My parents had already had 3 kids, and they were just tired of naming kids, so they just called me Baby. They were going to name me Jasper, but my godmother, this British woman, said, "Oh, you don't want to name him after a little ghost." So then I was, and this is true, actually named by probably the human being I hate most on planet Earth. This old hippie scumbag who is now dead and I hope in hell. Anyway, that's who named me. Friend of the family. Great guy. That was cathartic to say that. I've never actually said out loud that I hate that guy. But anyways, cool name. I'm glad I'm Professor Sky, not Professor Baby. And then another baby. A song for people like me who just keep having babies. Just keep having babies, but not in a weird religious way, just in like a way of like I just love being a dad. I love it. Kind of a rhythm and blues feel, this choppy 80s feeling and kind of zoning out. And then we get to hire this amazing production on the song with this plodding high piano and this stuttered undercut lower piano, these weird loopy avant-garde, come on now, JPEGMafia style signs, and it's all about sexual excitement for his wife. Love it. Thank you for contributing to this, Because the whole thing is that it's this trope, the trope of husbands being like, oh, my wife's an ugly fat bitch. Okay. How many times is that trope going to be used, What about the rest of us? Parentheses, freak it. 70s dub, almost like dub reggae sounds here. This like really cool, janky snare sound and more about the joys of married sex. Hey lover, can I ask you something? Have you noticed it's been a while since we spun the dial and got the engine running? Because that's the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be a marriage counselor here. The thing about remaining sexually active in marriage is that you have to have a different conception of time. You just have to understand. It doesn't matter what they tell you. Different times move differently. Like things just go differently. So like sometimes you're like, yeah, all the time is the greatest. And then sometimes you're like, what does human touch feel like? Because you're raising kids. You're running all over the place. You're busy, right? I love it. I love it because it's like, it's open and it's honest. And it's just like, that's just how it is. It's okay. There's no shoulds. Just get rid of the shoulds. Yamaha, just nice kind of keyboard sound. I suppose it's got to be a Yamaha keyboard sound, almost the Laurie Anderson Superman sound and back. Super soft rock, super nice. There's a lot of this kind of like goofing around in the studio feel that this album gives me, that like he's just goofing around in the studio, just making little sounds and throwing them on the album. But do you know why I like that? Because I think that's what he did, and I think that's okay. Bang, bang, Annie, I need it now. It's you, and you know how to rattle me, baby, real, real raw. Love it. Raunchy sex songs about his own wife. Funny, true story actually. My wife used a fake name on the dating app when we met, because you don't want to give out your real name on a dating app if you're a woman. Back then, that was the way they did it. So I thought her name was Anna. So there you go. Cool, right? Then we get to Fire, these fractured lyrics, which is basically like where we get into the deeper aspects of like being loved despite feeling self-hatred. Hey, everybody, have you ever felt self-hatred? I have. I do. I will. I always have, right? This deep self-hatred that you fight with all the time, this great blurry piano with these attacking sounds, very cool sounds, and then in the meantime, you actually manage to find love, and then you're like, I can't be loved because I'm unlovable. True story. There's a song called Unlovable by the Smiths, and I love it. But every time I play it, my wife makes me turn it off because she's like, I know that's how you feel. And I say, God damn it, how did you know? I know I'm unlovable. You don't have to tell me. It's a true story. True story. Next song is called Referee. Just love that. I love the way the drums get so heavy with this doubled voice. Just, man, Dijon makes the... Cause the thing is, like, last time I talked about Dijon, I think I compared him to, like, The Band and Bob Dylan and that whole kind of thing. He just has this, like, ability to just create these just crazy, awesome atmosphere and sounds. She had the time. She gets to call it. She's referee. It feels almost like he's, like, talking about his relationship with his wife and how she is. And we get to the song Rewind, which is, as far as I can tell, with this acoustic guitar goes straight in from the last song about the weight of raising a kid and how you want to rewind. And when you raise a kid, when you are raised in chaos, when you are raised in abuse, when you're raised in a tough situation, even if you're not, when you're raising a kid, if you're a good parent, the main thing you're trying to do is not make the same mistakes that your parents made. You want to rewind and heal, So my parents they didn't do a good job of showing their care for me in a lot of ways, right? There's a lot of love, but not a lot of care. Those aren't the same thing. So like I try to care for my kids. I try to care for them. I try to rewind and show them that care, not just the love, but the care. I tell my girls every single day that I'm with them, I love spending time with you, because I got the sense that my parents didn't like spending time with me, you know? But at the same time, sometimes you screw up. Sometimes you make a mistake. And when you make a mistake when you're raising a kid, when you kind of bark, I barked at my 3-year-old the other day, you know, because she was making too much noise in the hallway and I was trying to let my wife sleep, and I barked at her. You don't want to bark at your kids. So, you know, you want to rewind. There's a lot riding on this lot. Don't you think I know? My man, as far as I can tell, this is a song to his son. As far as I can tell, far away 80s drums. His voice is totally gone. He's yelling. He's just yelling, and it's just this love and this joy that he feels for these kids. That's the thing, you know. It's having kids is like the greatest thing you can do, with the caveat that if you're in a position to have kids, if you're emotionally developed enough, I wasn't ready to have kids. I had 2 kids with my first wife, and I was not ready. I wasn't ready. So like, it was great, and I love my kids more than anything in the whole world. But like, realistically, I wasn't ready, you know. But like, it is the greatest feeling. It is. It's the greatest feeling. It is the greatest feeling in the world. Being with your kids is the greatest feeling in the world. There's no greater feeling. There's no greater high. There's no greater connection. Ultimately, that's what I feel when I think about my parents. I feel like they lost out, you know? Because I'm dope, man. I'm a cool guy. Professor Baby, he's the coolest. I'm in a weird mood, y'all. I promise I'm not high. I don't do drugs. I had a Jenny Cream Ale last night. So I had 1 beer last night, so I guess I could still be feeling that. Loyal and Marie, kind of blurry vocal and guitar atmosphere. Takes a wrecking ball to figure out if she needs me. After wrecking ball, figure out if she leaves me. How come it's so easy? I don't know. It feels to me like this is a song about how difficult it is to accept love when it's easy. Because if you've been growing up in chaos and you feel like love is always complicated and it's always difficult, you can't possibly take it. Sometimes I look out at my bird feeder, which is usually behind me in my videos, and I look at the bird feeder, and sometimes there's a woodpecker there. Woodpeckers get food by landing on trees and pounding their fucking heads into the tree until they can eat a bug. All right, that's how they get food. When woodpeckers come up to a bird feeder, they go underneath, upside down, and they act like they still have to do all that work to get the bird seed. And I want to go out there and tell them, hey, woodpeckers, the safflower is for all birds. You don't need to go upside down. You don't need to bang your head against the tree to get a bug. It's easy, man. Real love is easy, woodpecker. That's how I feel. That's how I feel every fucking day I wake up next to my wife. That's how I feel. You know, you got to stop being the woodpecker. You got to be like those derpy ass morning doves who are just too stupid to even think they could be unlovable. But then, of course, there's the doubt. You know, every light home, I wonder if she'll leave. Then we get to the best song on the album, musically, Automatic. The great Old Dirty Bastard opening, these automated sounds in the back, just this groove. It develops with these synth hits and more sexy talk for his wife. He's talking about getting a chubby when he's hanging out with his wife. Love it. And when you want it rough, I vow to give it all I got. Love it. It's Automatic. Kinda Love is the song that ruined me. I was going to spend more time with this album and do like an hour-long review, but I can't. Because I can't listen to the song again, because it's too much. This great vaporwave sound with this like sitar. When I had a troubled mind, she made me feel peace kind of love, that oh my super elite kind of love, oh I'm jumping, hop out of my seat kind of love, oh man I feel weak kind of love. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dijon, for making not only great music, but great music that expresses something that is difficult to express. Expressing heartbreak is easy. Expressing pain is easy. Expressing joy in a way that is not saccharine, that is not tired, that is not unpleasant, that is not gloating is very difficult. Dijon has done something really amazing here, and he ends it, glad to have you by my side, give you that rough, that ride. Good day and good night, and that's what it is. Good day. I told you, it's his very big day. It's his big day. Good day, you know, that's the time with the kids. Good night, you know, that's for getting nasty with your wife. Love it. Amazing album. Thank you all for telling me to get it. I can't wait to see what Dijon does next, and I'm happy that it took him 5 years to make this album, because the most important thing is just hang out with your family. All right, speaking of which, time to go to the playground. There's a camera.